And so, yeah, that's been my experience in the contingent workforce management. And something funny, interesting about me is I'm a lifelong immigrant. My family is from India, but I've never lived in India. I was brought up in Singapore for the first 25 years of my life, and then I moved to Cincinnati about like 7 years back. So Cincinnati is home. I am a wife, and I am grateful that two humans call me mom. So that's a little bit about me. Product managers are responsible for the creation, maintenance, and upkeep of a product roadmap. So if you're from an engineering or product background, you know that product managers really take a look at the product roadmap, they analyze, they have to pitch to leadership, and really need to come to a shared decision on what the short-term and long-term roadmap looks like for a particular product. And in order to do that, right, to get to that shared understanding with leadership, they themselves need to have like meticulously brainstormed, analyzed, and prioritized a list of curated items that they believe will generate the most impact for their business. So they need to have that already set before they even go into a conversation with leadership. And in order for them to do that, they need to have like some sort of tool that can utilize both quantitative data and qualitative data. So, and in for that to happen, uh, that's where the product manager's favorite tool comes in, product prioritization frameworks. Now, this is an interesting image because clearly for OpenAI, having like correct spelling on any images generated was really not really high on their list of features, because I tried a couple of variations, and it produced an image with nice image like people, but the words and the spellings was all wrong. So just something funny. And then now let's take a look very briefly at product prioritization frameworks. What are they? If you're not familiar with them, this is very standard industry used frameworks. I'm not going to go into like details of each framework, but just to give you an idea of what kind are there, and what data goes into them. So these, as I said, very extensively used in the industry. We have the RICE model, we have the Kano, we have the value versus effort, and then we also have the Moscow framework, where we input different types of data, and then we are able to get an output of like, okay, based on this input, we're going to get an output. So think of this like as a data model, like supervised learning, uh, machine learning algorithm, right? Like we put in data and then we get an output. So, and we use these types of frameworks at different stages of our roadmap planning. So like, for example, RICE, we will use it upfront. But then when you're looking at the Moscow method, you're going to be using it when you have a set deadline and you need to meet that deadline. So then that's how you will prioritize. So as I mentioned, a huge variety of ways that product managers can map this data. So you must be thinking, that seems pretty neat. And we should be able to get, as product managers, a very clear idea of, okay, let's build feature A and do feature B later. But prioritization is, and product management is really, a lot of it is art, and it can't be just be looked at it from a science perspective. Like um, frameworks are a tool to help you rank and choose tasks and features, but then you can't be just using a framework and go into autopilot mode. So let's take a look at the next slide to again emphasize the things that I was saying, like what are the challenges if I just use it out of the box, like the RICE framework or the Moscow method? Like, why is that not going to be, um, effective? Or why is that not going to bring the best bang for buck for my company? So the first thing is, most of these frameworks unless you tweak them, they don't have any context related to your company's business operations. They're not so because they don't have any context, that means that the ranking or the way the list sequence of features that are the output might not be aligned with the business priorities. And finally, garbage in, garbage out. So even like, and I guess that's true for any type of framework, but if you're not going to give it good quality data, if you're not going to have a high confidence in, say, the effort it's going to take to build out a feature, or um, there might be a lot of things. Like if you're not going to give it good input, your output is not going to be great. So these are like some of the challenges up front. And as I said, more art than science. And let's get to the meat of this presentation, which is, so you can ask me like, Karishma, so how do I tweak these frameworks for them to work for my business, right? So first things first, add the missing context, right? Like we want to be able to tweak these frameworks to ensure that we are linking them to business and product strategy. Like even if you're looking at a framework like rice, right? Like you have your reach, your impact, your confidence, and your effort. Like, but if you add like, okay, this item is important because this links to business strategy number one. And having it at least listed down. So when you look at the final ranking from your rice, you can then also take a look at like, okay, so this is the number one priority, but it's aligned according to the framework, but it's aligning to like the third level of the business goal, which might not be the most high because it's the third one. So what you can do is, add multipliers, like create a stack ranked list, add multipliers to like business strategy number one, number two, or product strategy, and add like, say, anything that is aligned with the first topmost priority for the business will get like a 1.5. And then and you reduce it down to like, depending on how many goals your business has, like say three, the third one will get a 0.75. So then you get a more clear understanding of how things should be ranked. So this adds the missing context, which is really important for any product manager to prioritize properly. Then the other thing, right? Like we have to consider our team's capabilities. Um, right now, AI is all the hype. We want to be prioritizing AI powered features, but we do not have anybody on the floor, any technical product manager that knows about AI product management lifecycle, like the crisp DM structure. We like there is nobody who knows how to guide a team to build those features that need to go through a different way of development, right? So like we have to consider team capabilities with these frameworks, because sometimes like, yes, effort can go up and down, but for example, in rice, but it it needs to be more skewed and very clear in your models, because similarly, if you are trying to build a mobile app and that's your number one priority and you don't have any engineers who have previously done that or have the skills, um, it can really impede in your product shipping capabilities and speed. So you can consider adding like a strong criterion like team readiness, and that will, tweak the output of each um, feature that you're trying to analyze. So that's just an idea. Now let's take a look at cost of delay. At least what I've seen in my past experiences is when we have a set of features, we look at like, okay, it's going to take me X amount of time. Like this is a discussion that I've had countless times with my engineering manager and my UX design partner. Like we sit down and we discuss, maybe with like a couple of tech leads. We talk about like, how are we, how much time is going to take for us to um, ship and release this feature. But a lot, what we don't have is conversations of cost of delay. Like, okay, if I do not work on this particular set of features, like what happens? Like, do I lose my first mover advantage in the industry? Do I lose like a particular segment of the um, like market? Like if I'm not going to build out this mobile app, do I lose out like the 15% of my users who are teenagers? Or like, is this going to create a bad customer experience? Will that reduce the stickiness? Like, are those the long-term risks? And operationally, if I do not work on this particular feature, how is that going to impact, like, my product as a whole? Is it going to reduce its overall um, I'm sorry, like overall, just how it's working like well. So all of this are like good things to think about, so that you have a very clear idea, and especially when you're pitching features to leadership, like they have a very clear idea, like of, if I do not work on this feature, this is the main impact that happens, and if I do work on it, this is going to happen. So cost of delay is extremely important from what I've seen in my experience. And overall, if you're not looking at a particular framework when you're thinking about features, these are like 5 things that I've felt like have really impacted the way I think about prioritization as a product manager. So, importance, like how important is this to achieving our business and product strategy goals? How urgent is it? Does it need to happen like in the short term, or is this like a long term goal for like 3 to 4 years down the road? How necessary is this, right? Like, do we really need it, like for market parity? Do we need it for a differentiation? Like, getting that necessity in place also helps, as well as effort, as I mentioned, like how long will it take? Do we have the resources? And cost of delay, which I just explained. So in summary, frameworks are tools, and just that. Context is absolutely critical in product prioritization. So, when you are using these tools, take them with a grain of salt, tweak them, add the information that is available to you, try to use the most high quality data that you have so that you can um, have a really good stacked rank list towards the end, and ensure that all stakeholders are aligned once you have that list. And just keep in mind, like you can do whatever prioritization that you want, but priorities change. And it's very common for like leadership to be, no, we're changing course because of X, Y, and Z. So don't get disheartened, but this is somehow like in my experience, it has helped my prioritization make more sense to leadership and my cross-functional stakeholders. So keep shipping. And that's what I had to share with you today.